Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Nectarine. Brian Lilley here. Normally, I'm joining you on somewhere like radio or TV or somewhere, but not on radio tonight, but happy to be joining you here on The Nectarine. Not happy to be talking about the issues that we're going to be talking about tonight, because I don't know about you, but I've been to the Danforth. I couldn't tell you how many times. I used to make special trips there for spanakopita, the incredible spinach cheese pie that the Greeks make so beautifully. I mean, it's just phyllo pastry and cheese and spinach and spices, and it is amazing. I've been to so many restaurants on the Danforth. And if you're not familiar with the area and you're like, why are you calling it the Danforth? That's what it's called. It's Danforth Avenue in Toronto. If you take Bloor Street, if you don't know Toronto well, and you take Bloor Street and you head east towards the east end of the city, out towards Scarborough, away from Yonge and Bloor, you'll cross the viaduct and you will end up in or on the Danforth. I know it's just Danforth Avenue, but everyone calls it the Danforth. It's an area that has long been the Greek part of town. That's not the only thing that makes it special. I've watched so many concerts at the Danforth Music Hall. It's a beautiful place. And then last night the place is just shot up in a mass shooting. We've got a 10-year-old and an 18-year-old that are dead now. And when I say thoughts and prayers go out to their families, I'm not talking as a politician. I'm talking as someone that will pray for their eternal soul. It's just heartbreaking. Anybody in Toronto could have been on that street last night. This is the type of, if you're in Toronto, it's a destination. And in each of our cities across Canada, we all have these destinations. You know, here in Ottawa, you've got the Byward Market, you've got Elgin Street, you've got Westboro, you've got these neighborhoods that people go to at night, people go to for special occasions, people go to just to people watch, and that's what the Danforth is all about. And last night, this guy just shows up and starts shooting, and it took shortly after 10 p.m. on a Sunday night. I mean, who's expecting any kind of trouble on a Sunday night? You're simply not. And yet, it happened. So, we now know the man's name. He's a 29-year-old man named Faisal Hussain. Is this being considered a terrorist attack? Is this being considered mental illness? Well, his family has put out a statement saying that he's been dealing with mental illness his whole life. The fact that his name is Faisal Hussain is going to lead an awful lot of people to say terrorist attack. But police are being very tight-lipped about this. On the one hand, I understand. The man was involved in a shootout, and the SEIU, if you're not from Ontario, that means nothing to you. But this is the outside force that when police are involved in anything where you don't even have to have somebody die in it. But if a perpetrator, is even injured in an interaction with police, then this outside civilian oversight body set up back in the Bob Rae days under the NDP, because they've never trusted police. I'm not against police oversight, but I do worry about the SEIU sometimes. They come forward and they start investigating, and they've taken over. So this civilian oversight body has now taken over. So police can't say a whole lot. They can't say very much at all. And I'll tell you what that leads to. It leads to people not trusting the police. It leads to people thinking, okay, what are they hiding? This guy's obviously a terrorist. He may be, and I've had people that are credible sources contact me today to say, well, this guy was on a watch list. He was a known ISIS sympathizer. Did I have enough sources to go out and say that and write a report on it? No. But those views are out there on social media now. That's why I'm talking about this. Because those views are being put forward on social media that this guy was on a watch list, that he was an ISIS sympathizer, and that's why they didn't want to tell you his name. This is why transparency is so important. And police are reluctant to be transparent when something happens. I'll tell you about what happened on Parliament Hill today, completely unrelated to the Danforth, but a weird attack on a ceremonial changing of the guard on Parliament Hill just around 10 a.m. this morning. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But this was a very public event. This was not a private event. This was something that happened on a busy street. The only time the Danforth is quiet is between about 2:30 in the morning and 7:30 in the morning. I say that as someone that used to live in Toronto. This is a busy street from morning, noon, evening, night. It is busy constantly. And it's a fantastic place to go. You want to people watch their, I don't know, there's a better spot in Toronto. Kensington Market, no. St. Lawrence Market, no. Maybe College Street in Little Italy. The Danforth, to me, is it. And they have this very public incident. And you don't know anything about the shooter for almost 24 hours. That leads to speculation. That's why police need to be more upfront. That's why police need to be speaking about these things up front and from the start. They don't need to sit there and say, well, we need to wait, or we are being investigated by the SEIU. No, they need to be upfront from the start. Here's what we know. Here's what you need to know. American police are far better at this than Canadian police. I mean, locally, and for those of you that don't know, I host normally, not on tonight, but normally, I host a show on News Talk 580 CFRA in Ottawa. And I can tell you that our local police force is horrible about sharing information. Last week, we had a public bank robbery, steps from Parliament Hill. Literally steps from Parliament Hill. The easiest way to escape, actually, for this person, they went the wrong way, would have been to run towards Parliament Hill after they robbed the bank. But it's a woman who has mental health issues and all kinds of problems, and she went the wrong way. She got caught. So we have a bank robbery, steps from Parliament Hill. It took us almost 24 hours to find out anything about her. We knew that she'd been arrested. They wouldn't tell us any information about her. This is the standard operating procedure for Canadian police. In the United States, I can only think of one thing that has been different, and that is the Las Vegas shooting, right? The Las Vegas shooting last October, it did not do this. The Las Vegas shooting, we still know nothing about Stephen Paddock and why he did it. But for the most part, these guys are very upfront. In the U.S., they're very upfront about who it is, who the shooter is, what's going on, why it's happening, all of that. In this case, we knew nothing for almost 24 hours. And the big question is why? The big question is, what are the police trying to hide? Well, then it comes out the guy's name is Faisal Hussain. People say, well, obviously he's Muslim, so this is a terrorist attack. They didn't want to say. His family says he's been dealing with mental illness his whole life. That could be true. But the way the police handle this leaves you saying, okay, there's at least something that makes you wonder. That's not good for the Canadian public. That's not good for trust among citizens. That's not good for anybody. So let me just put that out there. Maybe this is a lesson for police. Maybe this is time for the police in Canada to think about how they deal with sensitive issues. The less they tell people, the more the conspiracy theories take place. And I can tell you all about that in relation to an allegation that came out about a very senior Ottawa politician, local politician, earlier today. I'll get to that in a moment. There's a There's a guy who's the head of the Ottawa Police Services Board, and the allegation is that he is connected to organized crime and drug dealing. And people don't want to talk about it. Well, that's just going to lead to what? Speculation. So now we're dealing with speculation about Faisal Hussain, 29-year-old man. We still don't know if he shot himself or if police shot him. We do know that 2 people are dead. We do know that I believe it's about 13 people that were injured. And thankfully, it seems like most of them, if not all of them, will pull through. I mean, honestly, we've got to hope that the death toll does not go higher. We'll tell you about that and update you if any news comes along. Now, there was another incident on Parliament Hill today, and just looking for, there it is. Okay, just looking for my phone on this one, because there's some information that's come out about this. Put on my glasses. Sorry, you got to watch me with my glasses for a minute. Signs of getting old. You're wearing glasses. So, if you haven't been to Ottawa, there is a ceremonial changing of the guard just after 10 o'clock. It's the Governor General's foot guards. They march up from the Cartier Drill Hall, which is right next to Ottawa City Hall, right next to the Rideau Canal. They march up with a full military band playing. It's fantastic to watch. They march up. They march along Laurier Street. They turn right. They go up Elgin. They go around the National War Memorial. It's beautiful to watch. Then they go and they do a whole ceremony and inspection on Parliament Hill. Well, there was someone that tried an attack today. And I'm sorry, if you're trying an attack on the ceremonial guard on Parliament Hill, you are pretty stupid. The fact that this guy is not dead is amazing. So, according to Ottawa Police, at 10:40 this morning, 24-year-old Jesse Mooney of Ottawa jumped forward. He's charged with assault and breach of probation. Investigators confirmed that this is an isolated incident. Mooney is scheduled to attend a show cause hearing in court tomorrow. So on Tuesday morning, he is going to be part of a show cause hearing. So he's going to have to show up in court, answer for what's going on. There were claims that he had a knife on him while he did this. There were claims that he was trying to stab a member of the Governor General's foot guards. Again, bad move, stupid move. If you haven't been on Parliament Hill since Corporal Nathan Cirillo died in the October 2014 terrorist attack, then you don't know that these guys now carry carbine rifles. They're carrying what amounts to a police or military version of the AR-15. That's the simplest way for me to describe it. Some gunnies are going to go nuts and say, that's not it. It's the, no. You want me to describe this to people that don't know anything about guns? It is, they've got a police or military version of the AR-15. And you've got Mounties walking around the perimeter of Parliament Hill carrying these things. And they're ready and willing to shoot you. And you're attacking a member of the military. I mean, the only reason this guy was not shot is that it is a very touristy event. There were all kinds of people in the perimeter. It would have been bad form, not only bad form, it would have been dangerous for the RCMP to shoot him. They tackled this guy, Jesse Mooney. They tackled him. They arrested him. He's in custody. It's not related to anything that happened in Toronto earlier or yesterday. It's not related to anything else, we're told. Just this guy decided to attack a member of the military doing what amounts to a ceremonial drill, a ceremonial incident. Here's the crazy part. While the rifles are not armed, and I don't fully get that, while the rifles are not armed, they do have bayonets. So these guys could have stabbed him. They could have cut him up if they'd wanted to. And he's attacking them. I was there for Corporal Cirillo shortly after he was shot. I was working at Sun News at the time. I'd gone down the street to get a coffee on the day of the terrorist attack on Parliament Hill. Corporal Cirillo was shot, and then Michael Zehef-Bebo ran up to Parliament Hill. Well, he drove up, and then he ran onto the hill with his lever-action rifle and was doing shooting up the place. I was there for that. I was there minutes after it happened. I'd come back from getting a coffee, and one of my colleagues stood up and said, "Shooting on the hill." I told my colleagues what was happening, then went on the hill, and was there within minutes. I was there before the Ottawa police showed up and before the doors of Parliament were shut down. Security on Parliament Hill has changed tremendously since that happened. So carried out this type of attack is only going to end badly for you. This guy is lucky that he's only at a show cause hearing tomorrow. Let me grab a quick drink. Okay. All right. Al is just asking me to let you know that if you're watching now, do us a favor. Click like and click share on this video. If you like what you're seeing, click like and click share. Now, here's the weird thing that's happening when it comes to policing in Ottawa today. I started to get messages last night. Now, long before I became a Parliament Hill reporter, I was a City of Ottawa reporter. I've covered municipal politics and provincial politics across Ontario and Quebec. Hamilton, Toronto, Montreal, a lot of time in Montreal, covered Ontario and Quebec provincially. And in 2002, I left Montreal, came back to Ottawa, and was covering Ottawa provincial or Ottawa municipal politics for a long time. Was the main reporter that covered City Hall at one point for News Talk 580 CFRA, and then I went up to the Hill for 10 years or so. Yesterday, I started getting messages sent to me about two people I know. The president of the Ottawa Police Association, which is essentially the police union for Ottawa, and the head of the chair of the Ottawa Police Services Board, a counselor named Eli El-Shantiri, man that I've known for years. I've known him longer than Matt Scoff, the union president. I like both of these guys. I like them an awful lot. Let me just turn that off. I like these guys. I know them. But I start getting these weird messages sent to me saying that Matt Scoff, the head of the Ottawa Police Union, is on recordings that are posted on LiveLeak and then YouTube, saying that the chair of the Ottawa Police Services Board is, and these are allegations, let me just stress this, these are allegations, that the chair of the Ottawa Police Services Board is involved with organized crime, that there are drugs involved, and that people know this and nobody's talking about it. Then it becomes weird. Yeah, because that's not weird enough. Nobody wants to talk about this, but everyone that I'm talking to on the sidelines of it, and I'm talking to people that have posted these videos, and I'm trying to talk to the players in it, they are going all over the map on this. So we've got someone that's made these incredible allegations that the chair of the Ottawa Police Services Board is involved with organized crime, is involved with drug dealing. That would shock me. I just want to put that out there. As someone that's known Eli El-Shantiri for a long time, that would shock me if it were true. And I'm not sure, I don't believe, at this point, I've not seen anything that makes me believe that it's true. But then you've also got the fact that it's the president of the Ottawa Police Association allegedly on tape making these accusations. And he's out there telling everyone. I talked to several people that have talked to Matt Scoff who say, Matt's out there denying it. It's not him. It's not him. I want to read to you. So just before the Ottawa Police Services Board met earlier today, and I want to read to you the statement that the Ottawa police chief made before the meeting happened. He said, "We are aware of some recent discussions that have been taking place on social media. I want to make it clear that the Ottawa Police Service has not and is not conducting any investigation involving the Ottawa Police Services Board Chair, Councillor Eli El-Shantiri," because one of the allegations is that the Ottawa Police were investigating him and knew about this but covered it up, kept it away from the chief. All right, so the chief's statement goes on. "We are aware of some audio recordings that have surfaced on social media. The fact that this false information is being released and distributed has prompted me to launch a chief's complaint. That investigation will be focused directly on the origins of the recordings and the individuals involved. To ensure transparency and impartiality, I am requesting that an outside police service conduct this investigation, and I won't be making any further comment." Now, I arrived at Ottawa City Hall for this meeting just as the chief was wrapping up his statement in French. So he made it first in English, second in French. And when somebody says I won't be making any further comment, I don't give a crap. I'm going to ask you questions. And so I asked Chief Bordelot, again, I know all the people involved in this. I know the chief. I know the police union head. I know the counselor involved. And while they don't all like each other, I know and like each of them and find them to be honorable people. So I'd be shocked if this was true about Councillor Eli El-Shantiri. Absolutely shocked. I'd be dumbfounded. That doesn't mean that it doesn't need an investigation. And what we have here is the chief saying, not that he's going to investigate the allegation, that the chair of the Police Services Board is involved in organized crime and drug dealing, focused directly on the origins of the recordings and the individuals involved. That's problematic. That's very problematic. Right after he said this, the meeting of the Police Services Board started. It was chaired by Councillor Eli El-Shantiri. He did not recuse himself. They didn't acknowledge the elephant in the room. They didn't talk about it. So you've got one of Canada's top 5 cities, population-wise, one of the largest cities in the country. The chair of the Police Services Board has just been accused of being involved in organized crime and drug dealing. Rightly or wrongly, he has to recuse himself, and he has to step down while an investigation takes place. Instead, this looks like a cover-up. Again, I don't actually believe these allegations, but when they're out there, and the chief is only focused directly on the origins of the recordings and not on the actual allegations, that looks like everyone's scratching each other's back, everyone's looking after each other. That doesn't leave you with any sense of, oh, we take these problems seriously. Not at all. This leaves you with a sense of, we're going to look after each other, and when I'm in trouble, you'll look after me, and when you're in trouble, I'll look after you. That's not how we want our police service operating. That's not how we want anything operating. We've just been through this with the Prime Minister. Let me put my glasses down here. We've just been through this with our Prime Minister, who told us that he needed to be held to the same standard as everyone else. And that, it doesn't matter how old the allegation is, you've got to hold him to the same standard. And then an allegation comes out about him groping, and he just says, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't need to talk about it. Don't need an investigation. I'm a real feminist. Don't worry about it. Nobody's buying that except Liberal voters. And that's the sad part. Sorry, just a little bit more Merlot. Look, it's evening. What can I say? Nobody's buying that except Liberal voters. And there was a poll out that really disturbed me because it showed Liberal voters backed Trudeau. They liked his response to this. If that had been Patrick Brown, they would have wanted him crucified. There are just certain things that you can't make partisan. There are certain things like allegations of corruption or allegations of sexual impropriety that you can't make partisan. You can't say, well, it's okay if my guy does it, but not okay if your guy does it. That's simply not on. You can't say, I'll accept it if they are on my team. I won't accept it if they're on the other team. And people will say to me, well, Brian, you would just accept it if it was conservative. Really? Ask Patrick Brown. Ask Patrick Brown what I said. Ask Patrick Brown how his career went. I think that's a pretty good and recent example. And yet we've got the Prime Minister just skating on by his groping allegation. We've got this chair of the Ottawa Police Services Board skating on by allegations that are rather tawdry. I mean, let's put it bluntly, they're rather tawdry. You can't just say, I'm not going to talk about it anymore. You've got to say something more than that. All right, so let me leave you with, move on to another story. And by the way, if you are watching and you're liking what you're seeing, hi, I'm Brian Lilley, normally on News Talk 580 CFRA. I'll be back there next week. If you like what you're seeing, then click share or like on this video. Share it out. Sharing's the best, okay? Everyone thinks liking's the best. Sharing is the best way to spread the word if you like what you're seeing. Justin Trudeau. Okay, so I mentioned the PM. Justin Trudeau. Do you remember back in 2015? I mean, does your memory go back that far? Because his doesn't. He used to go around and attack Stephen Harper's universal child care benefit. This is the thing that Stephen Harper announced during the 05-06 campaign. I was on that. My kids were a lot younger. They were under 6 at the time. And he announced $100 for each child under the age of 6, and then eventually expanded it to kids older than that as well. And Justin Trudeau went around saying, we don't need to be sending checks to millionaires' families. We don't need to send checks to the families of the wealthies, like my family or Stephen Harper's family, to help with childcare. And then one of the first things that Justin Trudeau did before he changed the universal child care benefit into the Canada child tax benefit is that he put his nannies on the payroll. Do you remember this? He had 2 nannies that were on his personal payroll because as leader of the third party, he didn't have a home paid for by the taxpayer. He didn't have a staff paid for by the taxpayer. He didn't have a chef or any of that. Well, if you're a leader of the opposition, you get Stornoway. That's your official residence. You get a chef and a couple of staffers to look after things because there are official duties that go with being leader of the opposition. And Canadians have long accepted this for more than 100 years. Same if you're prime minister. You get even more staff. You get a nicer home. You have a chef. You have all these things. But, you know, when the Harpers moved into 24 Sussex Drive, they didn't have a nanny. And their kids were young at the time. I know people think that Ben and Rachel Harper are, well, they're older now. Yeah, Ben's at university, but let's see, let me check the calendar. Yeah, it's 2018. He was a little over 9-10 years old when his father became prime minister, around that. We all remember him shaking hands with his dad when his dad dropped him off at school. And Stephen Harper was mocked and ridiculed for that. As someone that's had 4 children go through that age group, trust me, none of them want you to hug them on camera at that age. But I digress. The Harpers didn't hire a nanny on the government dime. Trudeau, in one of his first acts, hired 2. Then he fired one of them and didn't really say why, but let me just bring up this story here. It's from the Canadian Press. Fed set wages for nanny caring for Justin Trudeau's kids. So there's only one of them left, Filipino lady named Marian Puello, and her annual salary has been set at a range that starts just below $40,000 and caps out at $45,000. This is the an increase over what they had before. Back in November 2015, they said that she would get a range of $15 to $20 an hour for working days and 11 to 13 hours for working the night shift. Well, what do you get when you are on 24/7? What do you get when you're looking after the PM's kids constantly? I don't know if you've heard, but the PM's on vacation right now. Apparently, they're going to have a Liberal caucus retreat in Saskatchewan later on, and later on in the week. But right now, he's off on personal days in British Columbia. According to sources I've been speaking to, he is, along with his wife and 3 kids and the nanny, in Tofino, British Columbia. And I've never heard a report that says anything other than Justin and Sophie Trudeau don't look after their own kids. The nannies do. If you're a parent, aren't there times where you wished for a nanny? Aren't there times that you would have loved to have had somebody else looking after your own kids? Yeah, there's times like that. But that's all these guys do. That is what they are doing 24/7. And they put a salary of between $40,000 and $45,000 a year to raise the Trudeau children on your dime. I gotta say, that leaves a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. It leaves an awful lot of a sour taste in my mouth. I got 4 kids myself. We've raised them ourselves without an awful lot of help from family or friends or anybody else, and they're turning into great young adults. And I only hope for good things for the Trudeau kids. I can't blame them for any of this. It's bizarre. Justin didn't have this growing up in 24 Sussex Drive, even though his dad was at times a single father. He didn't have all this, but he's got this and more, and he wants you to pay for it. And by the way, if you're a small business owner that is paying your children or your spouse or another relative, you're probably a tax cheat. And if you are someone that relied on the old universal child care benefit, you're a millionaire living off the taxpayer. But if you're actually a millionaire like Justin Trudeau, putting the nannies on your tax roll or on our tax roll, that's just, why do you hate them? Why do you hate children? That's what the Liberals are going to ask. I'm Brian Lilley. It's been great talking with you tonight. We'll be back one day next week. We'll do this again. Do make sure that you click share on this. Do make sure that you drop by brianlilley.com. It's going to be a bit of a quiet week, but I'll still post the odd thing. And facebook.com/Brian Lilley is my Facebook page, and twitter.com/Brian Lilley. Thank you for joining us here at Nectarine tonight, and all the best. And I'd like to tell you when to watch me on radio or listen to me. You don't watch me on the radio, but when to listen to me on radio. But really, I'm all over the map. I'll be on mornings. I'll be on mid-mornings. Just watch my social media feeds. We'll be back with you soon. Thanks so much for watching.